A lot has been said about the power of why, but I prefer the power of who. Some have also talked about the power of how. How are we going to make it happen? The power of when. By when is it going to happen? The power of where. Where is it going to happen? But I still prefer the power of who. A long, long time ago, I taught English to Germans, which is quite an accomplishment, okay? And who was one of the words that they always mistook, because the sound wo, W-O, in German means where. Wo bist du means where are you? Okay, so it was hard to teach who as who. Who are you? I'd say, who are you? And they'd say, well, I'm in this room. I said, who? Who are you? Not where. I didn't ask where you are, who you are. And the funny thing is that the word where is the German who. So the German word wer means who in English. Wer bist du means who are you. Just the other way around. And you think it was easy to break that conditioning? So I'd go, who's your boss? And they'd say, my boss is in Berlin. And I say, where is your boss? And they'd say, his name is Mr. Smith. And in my early days, before I developed better methods of learning and teaching, it sometimes didn't matter how often I repeated the correction, how often I corrected them. Their rigid, narrow, conditioned mind would keep repeating the same mistake over and over, and it got so tiring. Okay, I got fed up with teaching after a while, but instead of leaving, it's a good thing I stayed. I started thinking about how to teach more quickly, how to develop methods that break the conditioning beyond the narrow conditioning. You know, I'd repeat it, and then I get upset after the 100th time of correcting them. It's who, not where, or it's where, not who. Just the other way around. Remember? Just the other way around. I'd repeat it over and over, and then after the 100th time, after a week of correcting that, you know, I'd get upset. How many more times do I have to tell you? For goodness sake, are you that stupid? You know, and you don't want to say that, of course, because that's going to reinforce the mistake even more. You know, unless you believe in conditioning, pain conditioning, you know, getting upset. That's learning with fear. That does work, but it completely suppresses the soul, completely suppresses who the person really is. Much of society is run on fear conditioning and fear programming, but that's not true learning. That's using the mind as robot and programming the mind. You know, I could take a lighter and burn your finger every time you make a mistake. That's Pavlovian conditioning. Or give you a piece of chocolate every time you do it well. Which would be better, but it's still the same type of robot programming. There's got to be a better way. You know, and I had 3 approaches. I'll share them with you from low to high. The first approach was that I would say beep every time they made one of those mistakes regarding where or who. Let's go beep. And then they'd have to think about it. And then they'd realize the mistake because they'd remember me talking about it. And they'd say the correct version. Okay, that's a soft conditioning. It's still Pavlovian. It's still conditioning, but it's softer. Beep. 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 That would be the game. And it would go on for a while, you know. With this method, with conditioning, And indoctrination, it just takes so much longer to learn. With normal schooling, regular schooling, it takes so much longer to learn. So I'd be going beep, 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 beep. And I'd have several students usually, so I go beep, 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 beep for weeks. And sometimes, even with this method, they'd continue making the very same mistake with great self-assuredness. The mind is always so self-assured that what it knows is correct and true. You know, in reality, the mind has no idea what is going on in reality, in their surroundings, in the world, but with such assuredness and such authority, it believes that, you know, this is this and this is this. That's why humility is so powerful. A sense of humbleness, because it keeps your mind open outside of the assumption that you already know, that you know everything. And in true humility, knowing that you don't know that much, and you need to rely on the universe and the source of this universe for your knowledge, in that kind of surrender, that kind of release away from this haughty self-assuredness that you know it all, you're going to know a lot more about everything. That's something I learned teaching English to Germans. So the second method was to have them open their attention a little bit, diffuse their attention, because people who are too narrowly focused, people whose attention is too hard, they try too hard, they're thinking too much, they're too narrow, they have a hard time learning anything. I had them relax, open up, open awareness, not try so hard, chill out, and in the state of diffuse attention, relaxed attention, open attention, I had them meditate on and visualize the difference between these words. Okay? The who and the where. The big who and the where. Once I had them visualize it and meditate on it, I had them write down several example sentences slowly and consciously, use example sentences slowly and consciously, you know. And once in a while I might still have to beep them, but this method worked more quickly, for sure. Relaxing, taking some time with the words, taking time to look at it, outside of pressure, outside of stress, fear, outside of the conditioning model of schooling, which is schooling for stupid people, essentially. But the third method, the ultimate method, that not only addressed this particular mistake, but all mistakes, was a change in identity, a change in the who. I had my students pretend that they are native English speakers. At the beginning of the seminar, they would have to change their identities. They'd have to choose a new name that I call them by, an English language name, and they'd have to tell me a bit of their English language history, their history growing up in America or in England or Australia or wherever they grew up as English speakers. And I'd also have them dress up in their new identity. So I had this attic full of props. It's an attic above my seminar rooms. And I had all these theater props which I had bought for this purpose and for the purpose of playing other role play like interaction games. And I had, a Scottish kilt and a fake bagpipe. I had cowboy hats and toy guns. I had Hawaiian flowery shirts and mock surfboards. So they could choose any identity they wanted, and they'd have to stay in that identity for the remainder of the English crash course, which usually took 7 days. 7 days of staying in one role. And this change of their who made all the difference. Made a surprising, amazing, vast difference in their performance. Not only in these words, but in everything. They learned more quickly. They didn't have to be corrected as often. I'd correct them once and they'd get it. Why? Because they were in the identity of somebody who already knows English. It was one of the most creative language classes you can imagine. So that's one of the many times that I realized it's all about the who. The who that I've been talking about across many books. Who you think you are. Who are you? The image you have of yourself versus the image others have of you, as well as your essence, your true self, beyond image. That's what it's all about. Who you deeply think you are influences your reality. And even though it sounds silly and clownish, it worked in my language courses. Putting on some silly outfit, some prop, worked. Had an effect, and that more deeply the person could get into their new role, their new identity, the better it worked. And we'd test that on a daily basis, test to see whether they're still in their role and still respond to their new name. Some time ago, a friend of mine told me to do a Qigong course. So I went and did a Qigong course, and then I came back and I said to him, Qigong sucks. I don't like it. It sucks. What had happened? Well, it wasn't that Qigong sucks. Qigong is quite all right. I just had the wrong teacher. I had the wrong who. So this teacher did not know much of Qigong herself. And she provided the workshop from a recording. She didn't even give the workshop herself. She turned on a recording from the internet in bad quality, and she did all the exercises too quickly. She was supposed to take pauses. We even heard in the recording she was supposed to take pauses, but she kept on going. So it was one of the worst workshops I've ever visited. And it's not that Qigong sucks, it's the who that was teaching it. So it doesn't matter so much what the topic of the seminar is. What matters is who is teaching it. You know that from your life. Any topic can be taught in a higher or lower quality. Depends upon who is delivering it. The big who. What's the energy of the person? You'll see that some things, they work with person A that don't work with person B. Person B can try it all he wants. It's not going to work. It's because of who he is. And you give the same task to person A, it'll work just fine. And it's not the thing, it's who is representing it, who is teaching it. That's why I'm so careful with what I say and don't say, because I know a lot of people believe what I say. I don't know why. Maybe I come across as trustworthy. Maybe I've been reliable in the past. That's why they believe what I say. So, I got to watch out for what I say, because they'll be like, oh, Fred said it, so it must be true. And a lot of things I say are speculative. I'm not myself sure they're true or not. I'm just putting them out there as a matter of entertaining certain thoughts, as a matter of speculation, and I always add, this is just my view. If I know it's true, I don't add that, then I just say it. But if I say this is just my view, I'm actually saying, be careful with this. Not necessarily true. It's just my view. And I know that I can say the most crazy things and people would believe it. So I become careful, more careful what I say. Whereas if somebody else said it, they think he needs to go to psychiatry. He's mentally ill. But if I say it, it's fine, apparently. It's about the who. That's the big who. It's about who you are, who is teaching it, who is saying it, who is representing it. If you put a famous or popular or good person to a bad product, the bad product's going to sell. They do that in marketing all the time. That's why they keep getting celebrities to represent certain products. Because they know it's about the who, and people fall for it. So you might ask me, Fred, what's your favorite live music? And I'd say, well, all kinds of live music. It's not about what type of music, it's about who is playing it. There's many, many levels of expertise in live music. And some people have the spark, and others they don't. It's about having that spark. Do you have the spark? Of which talent or topic or area do people say of you, he or she has the spark? She's got what it takes. So it's about finding out deeply who you are. First, who you think you are, and then who others think you are, and then who you actually are, below all those layers, who you authentically are, who you are when you're the most true and real and loyal to yourself. And then finally, in the last step, defining who you would like to be henceforth in the future, because according to who you define yourself as, you attract into your life. People work with you, have relationships with you, communicate with you based on who they think you are, which is based on who you think you are. So who you think you are attracts who they think you are. Who you deeply think you are. And you can cover that up for a while through image and reputation and public relations. You can cover up who you really are, and a lot of celebrities do that. But long term, you'll be more successful, and by success I mean success without strings attached. You'll be more successful and happy by being authentically who you are and being loved for that. And you'll be much more loved as well. People ask me questions every day, and I always wonder, secretly inside, I wonder, well, who's asking? Because whoever's asking determines the answer. As who you see determines what you see. You can't get any other answer than the viewpoint that's asking. The questioner and the answer are one. You can only get a limited amount of answers when viewing from a certain viewpoint. And if you're asking certain questions, it tells me you're viewing from a certain viewpoint and the answers are going to be limited. If you ask me, why am I so fat? The answers are going to be limited and they're not going to be good answers. Much better question would be, how can I enjoy being slim? How can I enjoy being slim? But in order to ask that question, to even come up with that question, you'd have to shift your identity, who you think you are. So who is asking these questions? Is it the desperate, needy, empty self, or is it the self that is coming from abundance? Where you are seeing from determines what you see. Many are concerned about sharing their thoughts or learning my thoughts, but more important than that is the space and silence in which your thoughts arise. Not the thoughts, not the content, but the context. Everybody's concerned about the content, my thoughts, your thoughts, her thoughts, he said, she said, but what about the context of your thoughts? The space in which your thoughts arise, and who they arise from. Who is this self having these thoughts? I recommend an audio in my member download section titled The Space in Which Thoughts Arise. It's a great meditation to get away from content only to context. Context is always superior to content because certain content can only arise in a certain context. And the who is the context of many thoughts. Whoever you are, you have thousands of thoughts coming along with that. If you define yourself as I am a doctor, you got 10,000 doctor thoughts along with that. If you define yourself as I am a lover, you got 10,000 lover thoughts. Define yourself as poor, you got 10,000 poverty thoughts. You see? The who is the context. Your self-image is also a thought, by the way. You are not your self-image and you are not the image others have of you. These are just thoughts. You got to ask yourself, do you love somebody because of the image you have of them or because of who they really are in essence? And if you love only the image, you're basically in love with a thought you have. And after some time, the feeling in love is going to go away. And what's left then is the real person. And then you'll think about leaving. That's why when you start a relationship with someone, it's best to let go of your own projections and desires and really see somebody the way they really are and to see if you're still in love with the way they really are. Without the rose-colored glasses, but also without the dark-colored glasses. No glasses whatsoever, as they really are. And I've talked a lot in other places about reading energy and seeing things neutrally without bias, without wanting it to go one way or the other in order to see reality. So find out who you really are and then be who you authentically are and also who you'd like to be. And by the way, who you would like to be and who you really are goes together. It's both your authentic self. Because some people say to me, well, if I just follow who I'd like to be, I'm not being who I really am. Well, who you really are authentically now may be different from who you're becoming. And it's in that sense that who you would like to be is also authentically who you are. So there's who you are authentically now and who you're becoming. And that's what's really important. Who are you and who would you like to be? And in order to attract what you want in your life, who would you have to be? Because every identity attracts a certain reality. and that is the teaching, the primary teaching of reality creation. My name is Fred Dodson. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe, share it far and wide.